Hi guys, once again, this is the Scrabble Man. This time around, I've made a video especially for beginners and novices, okay? This is for the lay people of Scrabble, the non-experts, okay? If you watch this video, you can learn some basic points, some important pointers and strategies that you as a basic player, a novice player, a beginner can employ, can use in your Scrabble play, in your recreational Scrabble play, okay? This is not for tournament players, all right? It also will help the aspiring tournament players as well. And in fact, if you're an intermediate player, some of these pointers will help you re-establish some core concepts, okay? But I made this video very light, very descriptive. I'm going to analyze the game, okay, that was played on the Internet Scrabble Club, or ISC, that most Scrabble players know of, all right? It's a very common Scrabble portal for people to play Scrabble on. Alright, so I'm going to analyze the game that's been played by two players by the names of Feynman and Grigory. Alright, so I don't know these players, but I just randomly picked this game because it was a very good game for me to analyze various strategies. Alright, so before I get into the game, okay, I'm going to talk about some key concepts you as a beginner, as a novice player, as a player who's being introduced to the game, need to keep in mind key concepts, okay? And I'm going to repeat these concepts time and again as I go through move by move, analyzing each move, okay? So let me start you off on the key concepts, which is to the left of my screen as I'm sharing my PC screen with you, okay? So you can see the commentary as well of the game for each move, okay? 1A is the first player, Feynman, and 1B is Grigory. So whenever there's an A next to the number, I'm talking about the move that Feynman has played. When there's a B next to the number, it's always the player Grigory. That's whose moves I'm considering. Okay, but first we'll look at the main concepts, so the main strategies as you as a Scrabble player, as a beginner, need to keep in mind. Okay, you need to be sure of the two-letter words. You need to at least make an effort to study all of the two-letter words. It's only about 126 two-letter words, I think, if my memory serves me correct. 127, okay? Don't quote me on it. It's definitely no, it's somewhere around that, okay? It's only those words for you to study, and they will help you a great deal in your Scrabble play, okay? I'm going to discuss what strategies you ought to employ on your opening turn, all right? Also, what strategies you should employ on your second turn, all right? There are things for you to look out for on a consistent basis. There are certain strategies that you can apply time and again on your first turn and your second turn. I'm going to discuss those. This another key important aspect that we need to discuss with regards to Scrabble is the concept to do with rap balance. This means you holding on to letters that are that have consonants and vowels, equal number of consonants and vowels, okay? You can't just hope to play any type of word each turn and then hope to play words consistently. Many a time beginners and novice players complain, oh, the letters that I have, I'm so unlucky, I have no control over the letters that keep appearing on my rack. Now this is what helps you have a certain level of control over the letters that you present yourself turn by turn. So you need to manage the number of vowels and consonants that you have every time. Exchanges, okay? Another thing that you can employ, another strategy that you can employ to have some control over the letters that you have is exchange. So when you have bad letters, you exchange. Parallel play is to make words one on top of the other, parallel, all right? To make hooks, all right? So if there's one word there, you make a new word connecting onto the word that was already on the board, okay? So if you had something like rate, you can make rated and dare. The D of dare connects onto rate. And same, you can make hooks horizontally, vertically, horizontally, okay? Both ways. Power tiles, as you may already know, even as a novice player, if you have played a few games, that there are certain letters which are more valuable than the rest of the tiles in the Scrabble set, okay? These are called power tiles. These are the high-scoring consonants, X, J, Q, Z, and also the blank and the S, all right? Also the importance of bonuses. You might be familiar with this already, that if you use all your letters in one go, you get 50 points extra. And also the efficient usage of the premium squares, all right? Triple word squares are what all Scrabble players are after, okay? Triple word squares are the most valuable regions of the board, those dark red squares on the corners of the board that I'm pointing out to you right now using my mouse cursor, all right? And there are also more efficient ways of using those premium squares, like using them twice. So I'm going to discuss that on this annotated game. All right. So let me get right into it. So move 1 is made by Feynman. So the computer randomly decides who starts. Okay. Unlike a real Scrabble game, where you have to draw from a set of Scrabble tiles and see which letter is first on the alphabet. So that player starts, as you already know the rules of the game. All right. But on this occasion, the computer decided that Feynman should start, and these are the letters that Feynman has. Straight away, you should realize that this rack is imbalanced, okay? Remember that point that I mentioned to you before, rack balance? It has 5 vowels and 2 consonants. That is not an ideal scenario for you to form many words. the best scenario is for you to have 4 consonants and 3 vowels on your first turn, or the second best would be 5 consonants and 2 vowels. Okay, 3 consonants and 4 vowels is also not too bad, all right? But 5 vowels and 2 consonants, not a good situation to be. And on your first turn, all right, you need to try and avoid placing vowels next to these double letter squares. Okay, now I have lessons prepared for each of these sections that I've listed above. I have a separate lesson prepared for each of those points. Okay, and I can break down each of those aspects of the game. I can give you very precise, very directed, very pointed examples for you to hone those skills. Okay, but unfortunately I have very little time to explain all of those things in detail in one video. I'm trying to make a 30-minute video here. I don't want to put you to sleep, and so if you want in-depth understanding of each of those points, message me, book a lesson with me, and I will give you worksheets and question sheets which are dedicated specifically for each of those points. So I'm going to rush through them a bit here with the video here, but nevertheless you can gain some basic understanding of each of those points. All right, so ideally you want to be playing a word that is an exposed, the double letter square, a vowel next to the double letter square. So if you play a word something like H-O-O, the second O of who exposes the double letter square next to the O. Okay, so on the subsequent turn for your opponent, they can maximize their score by placing a high scoring consonant next to those vowels that are next to the double letter squares. So you want to try and avoid that. Okay, so maybe something like oho. If some of you are familiar with your 3-letter words, there's a word called oho that doesn't do that. So the H is next to the double letter square, so H is not a vowel. Okay, therefore it is not as dangerous as playing something like who. Now the player Feynman eventually decided to play shoe. Okay, so he's exposing the vowel next to the double letter square. What is worse, he's used his power tile without much justification. Your power tile, something like an S, something like an X, something like a Z, should be used for a score in excess of 8 points. So if you have a word on the board that you've already planned to play, okay, and if that scores 20 points, and if you're using your power tile and that scores 22 points, it's not worth using your power tile for those 2 points extra. As a beginner, as a novice player, you ought to be trying to score in excess of 8 points or more for your power tiles. Okay, so that's a cutoff point for the novices. There are various different cutoff points for intermediate players and advanced and expert players, but as a novice beginner, you should be aiming to score 8 points or more for you to justify the usage of your power tile. So on this instance, if you had just chosen to play a ho, okay, which is an instrument that you use in your garden and nothing else, okay, so ho scores 12 points, whereas shoe scores 14 points. For those extra 2 points, it's not worth using the power tile S. And what's more, they've chosen to expose the vowel next to the premium squares as well, okay, which is not a scenario that you want to find yourself in when you're starting. All right, now let's discuss Grigory's turn. Now he's going second. Okay, so what he should try and do, he should place his high scoring consonant next to the vowel that is exposed, high scoring consonant on the double letter square, which is what he's done. Okay, but unfortunately he hasn't done that efficiently. You need to double up on that high scoring tile which is placed on the double letter square. Okay, let me explain what that means. Okay, so instead of playing ho this way, where the double letter applies on that H once, you should play it in such a way where the double letter applies on that H twice. All right, so if you play ho this way, notice the score. Ho scores 29, it being playing that way, because the H, the double letter on the H applies for it twice because it formed 2 separate words. Okay, let me explain to you in detail. Let me quickly do this. Okay, so he played the word HO as well as HOVE. So for the word HO, he scores 2 times 4 plus 1 point, and that scores 9. Okay, the 2 times 4 is because of the double letter square that is on the H, and also 2 times 4 plus 1 for the O. Let me do this quickly, it won't take a moment. Okay, I'm going to break this down for you just in case you're wondering how the scores are counted. 1 for the O, and then 8 for the V, and 1 for the E, so that makes altogether 18 points, and also they made the word OE, so that doesn't involve any premium squares. That's just 1 plus 1, so altogether that is that's 2 points for that score. So let me bring them all on the same column, and as you can see, the score for Hove there is 29 points as mentioned here on the computer. Alright, but if you play Hove this way, that scores only 18 points. So when you're going second, try and place a high scoring consonant next to on the premium square next to, that is exposed next to a vowel, and double up on it as well, okay? And this doubling up effect, you're going to see it right through the game being mentioned. I'm going to mention other moments on the game as well where you need to double up this way, all right? Okay, let's go and analyze what Feynman's done on his second turn. Okay, now these are Feynman's letters, all right? He's picked up a blank. The blank, in fact, is the most valuable premium letter, or the valuable power tile, I should have said. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The most valuable power tile is a blank. Don't get fooled by its zero face value, okay? As you progress in your Scrabbling exploits, as you progress to a intermediate level, or as you progress to an expert level, you start realizing the value of the blank tile, okay? So even at this point, you need to start treating the blank with a certain level of respect, okay? So the blank should ideally be used for scores, moves that score you 15 points or more. So if you have, even as a beginner, stick to this rule. If you have two moves to choose between, if you're going to use the blank for a certain move, that move should score more than 15 points than the other move that you had in mind, all right? Okay, the blank is that valuable, right? Now, again, if you observe the letters here, you have 4 vowels and 2 consonants, okay? So you need to try and keep abreast of the vowel-consonant ratio. Try and keep equal number of vowels and consonants, okay? Now, they chose to play, Feynman chooses to play no, but they really ought to be trying to get rid of more vowels here. So something like save might have been better, all right? So save might have been better. Because you're also reaching up to the double word square, okay? That scores 14 points, whereas the N, which only has a face value of 1 point, if you triple it, like what he did for no, you only get 3 points, and that scores less. That scores 13 points, okay? Next, we'll observe what Grigory did, okay? Now, Grigory has picked up another power tile, which is the Q, okay? The Q, it does have a face value of 10, but compared to the other power tile, it's not as valuable, okay? In fact, the Q can limit you in more ways than one, so try and play the Q as quickly as you possibly could. Even if it doesn't score you much, the Q should be offloaded as a rule of thumb in Scrabble, all right? Now, he scored 24 points on this occasion playing the Q, but he really ought to have used his other power tile as well, the S, and made Hobbes and QIS, okay? Using the S in this occasion is justified because when he plays Hobbes and Kiss, he scores 35 points. So, I mean, that's well worth the usage of the S there, all right? So that's something he should have tried to have done. Again, now Hobbes. Okay, looking at this point here, hooks. Okay, now that's something you need to look out for when you're playing words on the Scrabble board. All right, look out for moments for you to form hooks. Hooks are basically extensions to pre-existing words. Okay, if there's a long word, you can place another word at the end of it or at the start of the word and elongate that word. So hove becomes hoves, and hove takes many more letters as hooks. You can place an R, you can place a D, you can place an L. Okay. Now you will see later on this game how hove could be extended, right? Okay, let's move on to the third move that Feynman has. Now his rack is getting worse, okay, because he has now 5 vowels and a consonant and a blank. Definitely he should try his best to offload a few of those vowels, all right? So yeah, he should seriously be thinking of exchanging his letters or try and play as many of his vowels as possible. Now he's just played EA. That is not a wise thing to do. Maybe he should have played EA. That would have been better because you're getting rid of another one of your vowels as well. Okay, if you ask me, I would have changed. Hanging on to just one vowel and a consonant, maybe the V, a vowel, and the blank. Sorry, I would have changed hanging on to E and the blank. All right, but the rack balance situation for Feynman on that occasion is quite bad. All right, now let's look at Grigory's turn. All right, now, oh my gosh, Grigory is awfully close to a bonus. All right, so instead of the A, if he had a different vowel, he could have played a bonus. Okay, a bonus is when you use all your 7 tiles. Not only do you get the score for the turn, but you get an additional 50 points. Some of you may be already knowing this, so you get an additional 50 points. So what other vowel instead of the A, if he was in position of, what are the bonuses? Okay, if he had a different vowel instead of the A. So if you had an E, you could have played coffees, or if you had an I instead of the A, you could have played offices. Okay, very close, but not close enough. All right. Now on this occasion as well, what Grigory should have done is that he should have used his power tile to make something like coughs. All right. Coughs here. Right, now that goes 37 points. Unfortunately, he played faces. He did use his power tile though, but unfortunately, he played faces here. He wasn't mindful of the fact that there was a double word square for him to exploit. That double word square here. Okay, double word squares are better than double letter squares, because double word squares you get the points for the whole word doubled, whereas the double letter square that he eventually was able to use, it's only the E that fell on the double letter square. The E has only 1 point on face value. If you double that, you only get 2, so not many points there. All right, so that was an opportunity overlooked by Gregory. Okay, let's look at move number 4 for Feynman. Again, okay, he picked up another vowel. All right, now really they should be trying, he should have changed again. Okay, this is not helping his cause. All right, so nothing much else to say there with Feynman. Let's look at Gregory's rack now, the 4th turn. We are here. Okay, now this is what Gregory ought to have done. Hold. You should create the hook for hold by placing a D, making hold, and playing fed. The F of the word fed falls on the double word square, so the whole word gets doubled. The points for the whole word gets doubled. The points for the whole word fed gets doubled. 7 becomes 14, and also you get the points for hold. But instead, he chose to play feds on top here, also using his power tile. Okay, now if that was the only thing that he was able to spot, okay, maybe that's the only thing he could play, but really he should have spotted this hook for hold and made fed, and also preserve that power tile S. Okay, so something like feds here. Let's compare feds to fed. Okay, fed scores 26, fed scores 30. Play fed, because you only score 4 points extra by using that S. That doesn't justify the usage of the S. You should score 8 points or more for a power tile like S. Okay, let's observe Feynman's 5th move. Okay, Feynman is still struggling. He's still struggling with all of these vowels that he has. Okay, there is a bonus there, and this is just for expert players. I wouldn't expect any of you novices or beginners to know this word. It's alien E. Okay, if you make the blank and then you get your bonus, but if you're a beginner, you need to think of other ways to manage your rack here. So the primary objective here is to get rid of your vowels, and so you have a word here which is a very common English word. By playing idea, you have gotten rid of 3 of your vowels. Now that's something that Feynman should have done, but instead he chooses to play while using the only consonant that he has. Okay, not a good situation to be in. All right, now let's analyze what Gregory did on his 5th turn. So yes, now Gregory's rack is not too bad. He has 3 consonants and 4 vowels. Now, so if he can try and maintain that ratio, it's good. He has 2 O's, so if he can offload one of the O's, that would be great. Now, the move that he decided to play eventually was deft. When he plays deft, he hangs on to 3 vowels and 1 consonant, which is not a great combination of vowels and consonants. If you hang on to 4 letters, you need to hang on to 2 vowels and 2 consonants. All right. So instead of playing deft, which involves 2 consonants and a vowel, he should have played oof. That involves 2 vowels and a consonant, because the tiles he leaves himself with is 2 vowels and 2 consonants. This is the ideal ratio if you hang on to 4 letters. All right. Not only does oof scores more, all right, it's in terms of his consonant vowel ratio is the ideal scenario for him to be finding himself in. So the way he plays oof, he uses the double letter square where the first O of oof has fallen on. That double word square applies to both the words do and oof. Now this is something you need to constantly be mindful of, using those premium squares twice over, just like how I pointed out on the first turn when you had ho. But if he had played ho this way, that H, the premium square for that letter H would have counted twice over. So that's something you need to try and be mindful of constantly throughout the game. So if he had played oof this way, the premium square on the double word square, the first O of oof would have applied for both oof as well as do. All right, let's analyze the 6th turn for Feynman. Again, okay, his rack is getting from bad to worse. Again, a situation where he has 5 vowels, a consonant, and and the blank. All right, so he should really try and play one of these 3-letter words which have all vowels. Okay, there are a few 3-letter words that you really need to be mindful of. Okay, which contain all vowels. E-A-U, A-U-A. There's another 3-letter word called A-U-E. Now these words can be used to offload your excess vowels. Now this is what he should have tried to do. He he should have seen observed on the board any locations for him to play those words. All right, instead of playing the only consonant that he had. All right, so either that, or if he didn't know those words, he should have exchanged, or he should have thrown away his bad cards. All right, let's look at Grigory's rack again. For Grigory as well, he has a bad rack. He has 3 O's, 2 I's. Okay, he has 5 vowels to do consonants. Not only that, some of those consonants, those vowels are duplicated. 3 O's is a bad situation to find yourself in. 2 I's as well. So he should have tried to change. If not, try and score reasonably well enough. So something like oil would have been good. Okay, because for oil he scores 19 points. I think let me see how much he scores for oil. 17 points, which is not bad. As a beginner, as a novice player, even if you did have a bad Rex, 17 points is not bad for you to keep playing, okay, turn after turn, instead of changing and scoring 0. Okay, oil is not too bad of a score. All right. Okay, now again, okay, if you notice from move number 3 to move number 7, look, observe his scores. Observe Feynman's scores. He scores 2 points, then he scores 7 points, then he scores 9 points, then he scores 12, and then eventually on move 7 he ends up scoring 7, which is all he's making. He should have identified the problem right at the start, right at move number 3, and said, look, I'm getting rid of my excess vowels, because unless I have a good ratio, a healthy ratio between my consonants and vowels, I'm not going to be able to play many words turn after turn. I'm not going to be able to score many points with the words that I make. My options are going to be limited. Okay, so be mindful of how many consonants and vowels you're holding on to, all right, as you play your turns. All right, now even on this occasion he played the word gay. He really ought to have placed his Y in front of EA to make YEA, and made YEA once more. Okay, he makes use of that triple letter square twice over. The triple letter square applies twice over for that Y, because he made 2 words using the same letter which fell on that triple letter square. The triple letter square applied for both words. That Y applied for both words. So he scores 24 for that Y. Well, I'll count each word separately. 12, 13, 14 for one YEA, 12, 13, 14 for the other YEA. Altogether you make 28 points. Okay, again another oversight. All right, now unfortunately when Grigory changed his letters, he had a lot of vowels, but now he's picked up a lot of consonants. Okay, he's gone from one extreme to the other. All right, but this track is not too bad. He still has a few options. He still has a few words that he could form. Now I told you there are hooks that you can form of the word hove. Okay, you can place the letter R, you can place the letter L, you can place the letter D, obviously you can place the letter S, N as well. All right, so there are 5 letters that can fit after, in fact 6. Okay, some of you advanced Scrabble players may be saying you can place an A as well, but that's for advanced players. Okay, so all those options are available. So he could have played something like burr. Okay, I know it's a pretty funny word. You might be wondering, is this Scrabble at all? Are these words allowed? In fact they are. All these awkward sounds that people make or animals make, they are in the dictionary. Okay, that's something you could have played, or you could have even played something like Brit. Okay, so despite the fact that he has a bad rack, 6 consonants and 1 vowel, there are still options available to him. All right, so this is an occasion where you're forming a hook. All right, you're hooking on the R onto ho, which is already on the board. All right, let's observe move number 8. Again, he's still stuck with these vowels. All right, he's still stuck with these vowels. All right, as I told you, there are these words, 3 words that contain all vowels: AUA, AUE, EAU. He definitely can play one of those words and see whether he can get himself out of this sticky situation. So he can play EAU, he can play AUE there. All right, now those are options for him that's available. Okay, okay. Now I don't want to look at some options which involve awkward words and some high-level strategy. I'm going to discuss options that are more applicable for beginners. Okay, so he can play AUA there, he can play AUA here, he can play EAU there, he can play AUE there, he can play EAU there. So I'm going to discuss these 5 options, and I want to know, you can play AUA, which one is the best option. So some of them score more, like AUE and EAU score more. Some of them score less. Okay, so which option would you choose? As a beginner, you need to also be mindful of the fact that there are certain positional plays which are more advantageous, more defensive compared to some other plays. Okay, so don't just mindlessly play the first word that you see. All right, now if you play a word down column B, you end up exposing the triple word square column, which is down column A. Try not to expose that column. So try and avoid playing a word down this column. Instead, go down column L. Play something like EAU, which scores 11 points. So 1 point less, you make a better strategic play, a better positional play. You are not exposing the triple word square when you play EAU here. Okay, AUA scores you much less. Okay, it doesn't expose the triple word square as well, but why sacrifice and score? Play EAU. All right, so that's the best move there. All right, but instead he plays cafe. All right. Right, now let's look at what Gregory has now on his rack. We are on move number 8. So, yep, so as a novice player, even as a beginner, you need to try and play bonuses, okay? If you harbor any hopes of advancing as a Scrabble player, unless you start playing bonuses, you know very well what bonuses or bingos are. That's when you use all your 7 letters, all of your letters, to make a word on the board. It could be a 7-letter word or it could be an 8-letter word. Sometimes it could be even a 9-letter word. You can connect through 2 words, 2 letters that are on the board. The main point here is you use all of your letters and you score 50 points extra. Okay? And for novices and for beginners, this is what I advise. Look for prefixes and suffixes, and one of the most common suffixes is ER, IER, IES. These are the ways you're going to score your bonuses, or even ING. Okay, every Scrabble player that I speak to, one of their earliest forays into bonuses is with the ING suffix. Okay, so on this occasion you don't have ING, but you do have your IER suffix, IES suffix. Okay, I'm sure some of you may be already pondering what the bonuses here could be. Okay, there are many bonuses here: lousier, curlies, lustier. Okay, these are options that Gregory overlooked. All right, let's look at the 9th move for both the players here. Okay, now his rack is gaining some level of respectability. He has 3 vowels and 3 consonants and a blank, which is good, better than the situations that he found himself in from move 3 to move 8. Okay, on all those occasions, his consonants and vowel ratios are very poor. Whereas on move 8, move 9, okay, it's gaining some level of respectability. Even still, the 2 U's make his rack very cumbersome. Okay, the moment you have 2 U's, even if you have equal number of vowels and consonants, the moment you have 2 U's, okay, it still limits your options. Okay, so you need to try and see if you have an opportunity to play one of the U's. Make use of the double word square next to the U of lure and play by U. The Y has fallen on the double word square, so therefore both YU's will be the whole score. The score for the word YU will be doubled, okay, each time. Okay, the YU that's played horizontally and the YU that's played vertically, each of those YU's will have their scores doubled. Okay, all right, now that's something you need to try and employ, okay, on a consistent basis. Whenever you land on a premium square, on any of these premium square, you need to double up on them. Make them count twice over, okay, like in this occasion. Okay, but instead he played day. All right, now let's look at Grigor's rack. Okay, voila, wow, beautiful letters now. Very easy to find a bonus. Okay, I've already shown you the bonus that Gregory has spotted. Besting, there are many bonuses here, and like I said to you before, with INGs it's very easy to spot bonuses. He has a blank as well, so you can make the blank anything you want to. He's just to make it the B, so he scores 20 points for the move. Additionally, he scores 50 points because he used all of his letters. Okay, so that's the example. That's a very good example of a bonus word. Okay, now let's see what Feynman can do. Okay, now when he played besting, when Gregory played besting, he opened up these triple word squares. Now these are the most opportune areas, most favorable areas for you to maximize score as a beginner, as a novice player on a Scrabble board. Whenever you can gain access to these red color squares. Okay, so this red color square or this red color square, you can gain access to it. All right, now he did play a word through one of those red colored squares, but unfortunately he only scored 21 points. If he had only used his blank, okay, now watch what I'm doing. Make the blank the letter T. All right, now you're going to score amazing amount of points here. All right, the K in fact has fallen on a double letter square as well, so it's going to form a combo, a double letter triple word square combo. The K is on a double letter, the T is on a triple word, so the points for the whole word is going to get triple, but before that the points for K is going to get doubled first. So first K gains 10 points because it's on a double letter square, and then the points of the whole word, that's 2 plus 2 points for N and the I. T doesn't have any points because T is a blank, so it scores 0 points. So altogether you have 12 points. It gets triple because the whole word gets triple. The T is on a triple word square, 36, and also you get the points for KY. And when you count the points for KY, the K again is considered 10 points for K because again you consider the double letter square, okay, because on that turn the K is found on a double letter square. So 14 points for KY, so altogether that makes 50 points. That's a huge oversight on his part, okay. So I told you, look out for these triple word square columns or rows, because if you play words reaching up to those triple word squares, it's going to triple up the points for the whole word, and that's the best place on these on a Scrabble board for you to maximize your scores, okay. And like I told you before, I have lessons prepared for each of these strategies or pointers that I've mentioned, these headings, okay, and I can zone in on each of those aspects of the game, and I can give you very specific tasks and scenarios on the board that it'll drive the point home, okay. But I don't have enough time here on these short videos where I'm discussing the whole game and I'm discussing all of these pointers together as a whole. So book a lesson with me or contact me personally through my website, through Scrabbleman, and I will teach you these pointers specifically for you to learn, okay. All right, so we are almost nearing the end of the video. All right, so now let's look at the rack that Grigory has. Now Grigory also wants to make use of the triple word square next to the 15th column, 15th row. All right, and that's what they've done. They made time and they've scored a fairly reasonable amount of points, 23 points. I would have played more because they have 2 O's. Grigory has 2 O's, so instead of hanging on to when you play time, you hang on to OOR, okay. You always try and get rid of excess. If you have duplicates, try and get rid of the extra vowel or consonant. So if you have played more, you get rid of that extra O, which will help you make more words. If your rack is more balanced, because the balance of your rack is not only dependent upon the consonant vowel ratio, it's also dependent upon the fact that whether you hang on to duplicates of a vowel or of a consonant, okay. So instead of hanging on to 2 O's, you hang on to IOT. This is exactly the same score, okay. So the point to consider there is whether you hang on to duplicates or not. All right. If one word scored more points, then maybe, you know, for the sake of score, it's not worth considering whether you're hanging on to duplicates or not. Okay. But on this occasion, both more and time score the same points. So you hang on to the letters that are more favorable to you. All right. Let's get on to the last turn here. All right. So from Feynman's point of view, they have 2 power tiles, the X and the blank. All right, now they've chosen to play AX like this. They made use of their power tile as well. Like I told you, make sure the justification behind the usage of one of your power tiles, okay, is quite strong. Okay, you're already using your X, which is power tile, but you're also using your blank. Are you going to score 15 points more than another turn on the board which doesn't require the usage of the blank? In fact, there is another turn on the board. He could have played XU. Like I mentioned to you before, make sure, okay, even if you don't want to study any fancy words for Scrabble, at least study the 125, 126 odd words, shorter words, okay? This will help you a great deal. Look how you can play XU here. The X is on a double word square, and the double word square will apply for each of those XUs. Okay, so XU scores 9 points ordinarily. If you double it, you'll score 18 points, but you made XU twice, horizontally and vertically, so 18 points twice over for each of those XUs. So that's 36, and then 2 points for the UR, 38 points. So he didn't have to use that blank to make AX. So that's an oversight on Feynman's part. All right, I'm getting excited here. So I've come to the end of the video. All right, so that's it from me. Like I mentioned to you before, I have lessons prepared for each of these points, and I have very specific tasks and activities and question sheets for each of these points, which I can cover if you contact me personally. I can do a lesson with you, a paid lesson with you, one-on-one, or if you gather up a few friends, I can do a group session. Contact me personally. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure this was helpful as well. So happy Scrabbling, okay? You're going to improve as a Scrabble player. Take care, and I'll see you soon again on another one of these videos. Bye, ciao.